I have another case for you today that needs someone to come forward with information to bring Lise Fredette home to her family. Now, this case is solved, but her remains have never been found, and her family desperately wants her body found. So let's try and help this family out. Now, there's a lot of information available on this case, but I could not find a single thing, like even in some of the archives that tell us what Lise was like in life. But True Crime True North did manage to get an interview with Lisa's adult son, Stefan, and it's really a good thing because they spoke to him because otherwise, I would not know what an amazing Spitfire sassy girl Lise was, even in her 70s. So Lise was originally from Sherbrooke, Quebec, where she had two kids, Stefan and Natalie. Her husband and her split up in 1977, but they stayed friendly with each other. And Lise, being attractive and active, she dated after her kids were adults. And she moved to Peterborough in her later years, which is considered to be in central Ontario. It's about 125 kilometers northeast of Toronto, with about 85,000 people living there. And Lise got a job working at Walmart as their jewelry department manager just to keep herself busy. This is the one on Shermung Road, which was about a 13-minute drive north of her home at 2533 Bensford Road. Stefan talked about his mom when they were growing up, and she was pretty much the super mom type. She made sure both kids got to do and participate in whatever activities they wanted to do. If they wanted to play soccer, they played soccer, and she didn't just show up to watch. Like, she would volunteer on the team. She had a bit of a tough exterior, but she was very loving and caring and had a nurturing and soft hearted spirit inside that she just tried to protect by being a little bit tough on the outside. But probably the most impressive thing about Lise is that she never gave up on love. Like, she dated into her 70s. Like, come on, I wouldn't want to be dating now. I didn't want to be dating in my 30s. So in 2011, she's 71. She's a grandma. She's living alone, doing her thing at Walmart, which would be a full enough day for me. She's still driving. She has a Toyota RAV4 SUV, and then she's off volunteering at community events, and she's dating. Like, she's kind of my hero, really. Well, except for the dating part. I really have no interest in doing that. So in 2011, while volunteering at a community dance, she meets this guy, Andrew Watson. Now, Andrew is originally from Glasgow, Scotland. He'd worked at the Department of Natural Resources there before he retired and moved to Peterborough, at about 30 minutes away from Lise on Payne Street. Interestingly, he had apparently had a brother that disappeared back home, but I really couldn't find any information on that. So maybe it was just a rumor. Anyway, she met him, they kinda started dating, and then he ghosted her. So she met a different guy at another dance, like, Lise, like, she's got some game. Well, then Andrew comes back into the picture and wants to start stuff up again, and Lise decides, like, okay, like, why not? Andrew seemed like a good guy, to Stefan too. Well, he appeared to really care about Lise, and so the two of them were kind of an item. They would go on some trips together, and everything was wonderful. Except for the fact that Andrew had a little bit of a jealous streak, and Stefan described his behavior as rather childish. Something he kind of put off to the fact that, this guy had lived alone most of his life. And I don't know. I think some people can act a little bit childish when they get a little bit older. But he would kind of go off on a little bit of a snit and huff when he was feeling jealous. And then he would come crawling back all apologetic. I mean, the usual stuff. Now, Lise never mentioned to anyone if Andrew had ever been violent with her or showed any signs of that. But people that knew both of them say, like, she would have mentioned that, but like, who knows? So in April 2014, Lise made it clear that this time, like, she's over it. She didn't want to see him anymore. Like, she's 74 by this point. She doesn't have time for this kind of crap. And Andrew was 77, so it's not like he's motivated to grow and change, like, become his authentic self or anything. Like, no one's reading self-help books after the age of 75. Who you are is who you are. Well, Andrew didn't take this very well, and he started to do some pretty weird and harassing things to her, like leaving letters in her mailbox saying things that were threatening, but not threatening enough, if you know what I mean. Like, "Oh, I'm just really worried about you. I wouldn't want anything to happen to you at night. You should lock your doors." Like, and he also started watching her from the cemetery, which is across the street from the house, like, just weird and kind of creepy things. But soon Lise started dating a new man named Ben, and the letters and harassments completely amped up as they usually do. And so Lise did take the matter to the police. They told her to just be really clear with him, so not that helpful. They probably figured, like, he's 77, how dangerous could he be? But they did in September go out to his place and talk to him, tell him to stay away from Lise or else. And like he didn't really do that. Instead, on her birthday in October, he went to her place and told her, like, hey, I got a new girlfriend and she happens to live on your street. So if you see me around here, don't call the cops on me. Now this new girlfriend probably didn't exist. So, now Lise lived very much by routine, as most seniors do. Like seniors, they don't like curveballs. So on Wednesday, her routine was to work at Walmart at the evening shift, and then Thursdays she worked the morning shift. And the normal routine had become that Lise got home from work, which was around 8:30 at night. Ben would then come by. They'd order pizza, watch TV together, and just kind of unwind. Now I'm not sure what transpired when Ben showed up that evening, or if he showed up at all. Like it might be that he always waited for her to call until he got home. And then she didn't call that night, so he figured she's busy or just tired or whatever. Um, but she didn't show up for work the next morning, and her coworkers right away were worried about her because that was not like her at all. So they called Stefan, who called Natalie, and then Natalie went over to the house to sort of check on her mom. Natalie arrived at her mom's place around 9 in the morning and saw that her RAV4 was parked in the driveway, but her purse and car keys were laying on the driveway in front of the vehicle. And starting to panic a little bit, Natalie ran to the front door and saw that the door was still locked, indicating that she had not made it from the car door to where, like, past much of the car door where she was obviously attacked, which was easy to surmise based on the blood that was staining the driveway around where her purse and keys were. There was also one of her earrings laying on the driveway. So Natalie called the police, who came out right away, and they noticed that the light to the motion sensor porch light had been unscrewed, and there was some footprints or like shoe prints in the ground directly under the light. And the police immediately did the door to door thing, searched around the area, letting residents know that Lise had last been seen wearing a 3/4 length black down filled winter jacket, dark pants, and and black shoes. She had dark colored purse and a blue soft shelled thermal lunch bag. Now, there was enough evidence of a struggle and attack that it didn't take a genius to figure out that Lise had met with foul play. Inspectable Larry Charmley was in charge of the investigation and all the search efforts. It also didn't take a genius to figure out the best place to start asking questions was at 746 Payne Street in the home of Andrew Watson. Now, he wasn't particularly helpful, but Larry was pretty confident that Andrew knew more than he was saying, and worse, that she was dead and that he had killed her. Quote, we had our concerns from day one, but as time passed, she's been missing for more than a week. There are a number of steps to be taken in an investigation to see traces of activity. We came to a dead end, and reality sets in. So rather than bore you with a long list of things that they found at Lisa's house as well as at Andrew's house, let's just say this criminal mastermind left a trail of blood evidence and discarded tarps and shoe prints and cuts on his hands, left his own blood on the Lisa's driveway. The list just goes on and on. So he was arrested for first-degree murder and criminal harassment for these little love notes he was leaving behind 9 days after her disappearance. And then he was questioned, which now this police interview is 3 hours long. So you will pardon me if I've edited it down a little bit for time.
You record everything. And it's for your protection, it's also for my protection. Okay? Nobody can ever say down the road, Andy said this when he didn't, or Scott said this when he didn't. You know, we live in a world now where it's like, no, we can just press play and you can listen to what I said. Okay? So I just wanted to let you know that that's happening. Okay? And just, you know, I'm sure you're not surprised by that. If you go anywhere these days, drive to a bank, drive to a coffee shop, drive to a grocery store, they're taking our picture. That's the world we live in, okay? Well, that's no different than law enforcement. That's how we do things now. There you go. Well, I hope you don't mind. I got one for myself too, so I could join you. I didn't need any food, but if you're going to have a coffee, I thought I'll take advantage. I just got here myself, so as we settle into this process, I'll have a coffee with you. Okay. You understand you're at the Peterborough Police Service? Okay. Is there any confusion as to where you are right now?
No.
Okay. Do you know what day it is?
Saturday.
Do you know what the date is?
What?
Do you know what the date is?
Maybe around the 20th or 21st, I'm not sure.
You're close.
When you're retired, you know, days are all the same.
They just kind of blend.
The whole time is just one continuum.
Yeah.
Saturday's no different for me than Sunday or Monday or Tuesday. And they're all the same.
But
It's not like that. When you work, it's not like that. You're aware of every day and the weekends. But when you're retired, it's a whole different ballgame.
Yeah.
I have a huge flower bed that stretches about maybe 40 feet by 8 feet. And that keeps me busy. Even just weeding it keeps me busy.
What do you plant in it? What do you...
Flowers.
Yeah, but what kind do you like?
Perennials.
Perennials?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I want stuff that's inexpensive and easy maintenance. I got about 6 or 8 bottles of liquor.
Yeah.
Scotch, rye, rum, gin.
Yeah.
They're sitting up in my house. They've been there for at least 20 years. Putting the hands or two in the push.
Yeah.
It seems to me that attitude is sort of, if it's not broken, don't fix it. They're quite happy. They've got their family, their kids, their grandkids, and their friends, and their social circles. They really don't need anything else.
Well, and what's your attitude about that? Because you're also of that age group. You have your own house that's paid for. You don't have any headaches.
No, but I'm not like them in as much as I have no company.
Would you have liked to have gotten to a point with her that the two of you lived together?
I wouldn't live together.
No.
Because if you live together under the laws in Ontario, you're automatically married, whether you like it or not.
Despite that side of it. You're right, okay, in what you're thinking. But how would you see the long-term relationship going then? Just each living in your own home but being committed to each other?
Well, that's the way it was going, and it was going okay.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that makes sense then. Yeah.
But I can only tell you about this from my point of view.
Absolutely.
I've got no idea what Lise was thinking or what was going through her mind or anything else.
No, you're right, and I can only ask you from your point of view because I haven't had an opportunity to talk to her.
Well, you should talk to other people though and get their views.
Oh, we are, absolutely. This investigation has taken on a whole new direction now that we're here, okay?
I guess you have to start from scratch.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff and there's some things I want to share with you here today that we're doing so you understand what's going on. Because we do things very different, okay? And we have access to a lot of things that we're now going to utilize because this is, make no mistake, this is, in our opinion, a death investigation, a homicide, okay? We believe she's dead, okay? People don't just drop off the face of the earth and cease to exist. There's been no activity on her bank accounts. Nobody's heard from her. Nobody's seen her. Like, there's a lot of other things we'll talk about. But that's just not normal, and you know that, right? And so we have other things that I'll discuss with you that logically, when we look at it, yeah, she's dead, and I know that. So, you know, and we believe that somebody's responsible for that.
Me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But you've charged me with murder.
Well, yeah, those are the charges before the courts. Yeah, and I'm going to explain to you why, so you understand why. Okay, but. You're right, I haven't had a chance to talk to her, but we are now talking to a lot of people and getting a big picture of what's going on here. And I got a lot of other things that we're working on now too.
Well, this is exactly what the Peterborough police told me.
What did they tell you?
Well, I was speaking to this guy, Dan LeMay,
Okay.
and I was saying to him, well, did you speak to Ben? Oh no, I'm not speaking to Ben, somebody else will speak to Ben. And I said to him, well, did you speak to Dave Clark? Oh no, I'm not speaking to Dave, somebody else will speak to Dave Clark. And said, well, did you do this? Oh no, I know. You know, it seems to be, everything's all mixed up. And I'm saying to myself, could they not have the one guy go and speak to everybody and then he maybe understand what the hell's going on instead of having half a dozen different detectives speaking to half a dozen different people?
I have a team of investigators here now. They are speaking to Ben. They are speaking to Dave. They are speaking to her daughter. They are speaking to her son. They are speaking to her grandkids. They are speaking to people at her work. They are speaking to neighbors. They are canvassing the neighborhoods. I have officers down at the Center of Forensic Sciences working with the scientists saying, hey, these are the exhibits we submitted, get working on them. Get it done.
Mm-hmm.
There's other techniques that we're working on here right now that I have officers assigned to exclusively just make those calls and get those things done. Okay, this has now become what we call a joint forces investigation where we are the lead. Okay,
With the Peterborough police.
yeah, that's why we're in their building. Okay, because it all started in their city, but we have now taken over the lead and we have brought in our own investigators, and things are like, as you and I are sitting here right now, there's all kinds of things that are happening. There's all kinds of things that are being done. Period. And some of them I'm going to explain to you and show you so you understand what's going on. Okay. That's what you asked me, right? Is that what you asked me earlier? Does that make sense?
No, I just said to you, I didn't know. At the time, I didn't know she was missing.
No, but I mean, I'm telling you now from a police perspective as we move forward, we know she's missing. I've told you why, in that there's been no activity on her bank account. Nobody has heard from her. She hasn't phoned anybody. She hasn't reached out to contact anybody. Her car has not moved. It was like in her driveway. She was there. The family hasn't heard from her. She hasn't made withdrawals on her bank. She hasn't shown up for work.
Mm-hmm.
That's like somebody just dropped off the face of the earth. And we all know people don't do that. We are creatures of habit. We have our routines, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. When you say to me, how do we know some of these things, and how can I draw the conclusion that I believe, something bad has happened to her? I want you to look at that picture. Okay. Now, first of all, I'll start with this one. Where is that?
That's her driveway.
Exactly. Okay. And whose car is that?
That's her car.
Right.
That's a new one. Pretty new.
Yeah, it looks fairly new, right? But here's the thing. So
You
when
know
I
she paid about 43,000 for that?
43,000 for that car.
Yeah. It's got all the bells and whistles.
Is that the one you drove to Quebec?
Oh, no.
No. That's a
Well,
nice car.
she had an old Camry,
Yeah.
but it was in really good shape.
That's a nice car.
But she had an accident with the Camry and it was a write-off.
Oh, okay.
So she got this one.
Well, that is a nice car, I agree with you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So one of the things I want you to notice there, and I'm just telling you things that I know from my observations now as we're investigating this, right? See that right there?
Yeah.
That's blood.
Uh-huh.
Okay. We'll start there, okay? But this is her house, this is her entrance, right? It looks familiar to you, right? Because you've been there before.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
This is the back of her car.
Yeah.
Because
yeah.
see this little piece
Yeah,
here?
yeah.
That would be along here, or down
No,
the side.
down here.
Right. See that?
Yeah.
What's
yeah,
that?
That's blood.
That's blood. Okay.
I'm
and-
assuming.
Yeah, so am I, right?
Yeah.
But from my standpoint, between that at the front of the car and this at the back of the car, that's what I would refer to as a significant amount of blood.
Foul play.
Yeah, foul play.
Indicated foul play.
Absolutely, right? Because that's not a cut finger.
No.
That's not a stub toe.
No.
That's significant, okay? There's a lot of things I can read into when I look at that, okay? So when I see those things. Then you look at that picture. So you obviously know that that picture is along here now, right?
Which one?
See this picture here? right?
This,
Where is that in relation to this?
this picture here is there.
Exactly. Okay. See her keys, see an earring.
I'll take your word for it.
Yep.
You know,
Okay.
they took my glasses away from me.
Okay, well, right here is her car key, her house key, and right here is an earring.
Yeah.
Okay, and there's a sign of a struggle. You can see how everything's kind of tossed up, and there's the edging of the blood right there, right?
Yeah.
Now, that's not normal. We know she didn't go in the house. We know her things are lying there, okay? There's another picture which is along the edge here.
Yeah.
That's her glasses, laying on the ground. It indicates a sign of a struggle.
Oh yeah.
Tells us that there was a struggle there,
Yeah.
okay? And we've got the blood
Did you see our glasses over here?
right there.
That's her glasses.
That's her glasses right there. Okay. So that indicates to me a sign of a struggle.
Yeah.
Plus we've got the bleeding at the front of the car, we've got the bleeding at the back of the car,
Yeah.
and it's right at the entrance where she would be getting into her door.
Yeah.
How do I know that this day is the day she went missing? The 12th of November, which is a Wednesday, she was working. And she was working at Walmart.
Yeah.
So we've already verified that she worked her shift that day,
Mm-hmm.
and we verified what time she ended her shift and went home. So we know that she was alive all day. People spoke to her, people saw her,
Mhm.
people interacted with her, and people watched her leave work. Okay? So we know she left, and we presume, because her car's in the driveway, she eventually went home.
Yeah.
Make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's how we know this day, because on the next day, the 13th, she didn't show up for work. Number one, which is unusual for her, right? She didn't go to work on the 13th. So that caused people some concerns. Family members didn't hear from her. Nobody could locate her. And this is what people found when they went to her house.
Mm-hmm.
So when you put, she goes to work, she leaves work, she heads home. People see this, police arrive and see this. We have evidence of blood. She doesn't go to work the next day, and from this day forward, she's never been seen or heard from again. So we can conclusively say that sometime during the evening hours of the 12th or into the early morning hours of the 13th,
Yeah.
something happened to her,
Mhm.
and that's when she went missing. So that's how we know for that part of it. Make sense? Right over here, a couple of doors down from her house, is a daycare being run out of a house,
Mm-hmm.
right? Right over here is a big school, just down the street. First,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Just down from the school, before you get back to the intersection, is a variety store, a convenience store.
Mm-hmm.
What do all of those things have in today's day and age? Cameras.
Yeah.
They all have cameras. It's the world we live in, right?
Mm-hmm.
Everybody has cameras now for security reasons. Insurance, protect their own property, trying to prevent vandalism. Schools, new legislation was passed because of a couple of tragic incidents that happened where they installed cameras at all the schools that focus out on the streets and the crosswalks so that when kids are walking, in case there's an accident, in case there's an abduction, we want to be able to see vehicles. We want to be able to see people walking. Variety stores have cameras shooting out onto the street in the parking lots in case people grab things out of the store, shoplifting and run away. People arriving at the store for robberies, break and enter, thefts. This cemetery, the whole laneway is cameraed to capture vehicles coming in and out. Anybody that wants to do damage. They have a beautiful big building in there.
Mm-hmm.
It's all
Yeah.
cameraed, right? Like it's just the world we live in. This daycare, oh my word, cameras, because they're caring for children.
Yeah.
So, for insurance reasons, they have cameras there to, in case, abduction, some parent shows up that's not supposed to show up, a child wanders off, at least you got something to start with, right?
Mm-hmm.
I have officers at every one of these locations, as you and I speak, accessing and downloading all the data
Mm-hmm.
for the 12th of November into the 13th of November, because she lives right on that corner.
Mm-hmm.
So now we're accessing all those cameras. We're accessing everything. Okay. Now, when I look at those cameras, when I look at the satellite imagery that's coming in, okay, That's why I want to ask you this question. So on the evening of the 12th of November, so we're getting into the nighttime, after 7 o'clock at night, maybe even into the early morning hours of the 13th, but we're talking about that Wednesday night into the next day when she went missing. Is there any reason you can think of why, when I download these images from all this video footage and have a look at it, or when my satellite images come and arrive, okay, is there any reason you can think of why I'm going to see you or your vehicle in that area? And I just wanted to ask you that now, because maybe there's some logical reason that you were there or in that area that I'm not aware of, that we should talk about and clear up now so that I don't have to come back and do it later. Any reason you can think of why I'm going to see you or your vehicle?
No.
No? Okay. And that's why I thought I'd ask now, right? Because this is just a matter of probably hours away.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, according to you, you've got it made.
What's that?
According to you, you've got it made.
Well,
It's just a question of time.
yeah, it is a question of time, right? So, but that's why I wanted to ask you if there's any reason you can
No,
think
I've got
of.
nothing to say. That lawyer's going to be mad at me
No, but I'm just wondering,
for talking to you.
is there any reason you can think of why we would even see you there?
I don't know what to answer any questions at all.
Okay. All right. But I just wanted you to understand that's one of the things we're working on. Okay, so I wanted to
Yeah,
give you some
wow.
info. I wanted to share it with you.
Yeah, no, that's good,
Okay.
because it looks as if you're definitely going to have this wrapped up pretty soon.
The other thing that we're working on is you asked about your car. Okay. You have a Subaru. What
Yeah.
year is your car?
2010,
2010.
I bought it brand new.
Yeah.
Paid cash for it.
Yeah. No, it's a nice car. It's in good shape.
The fuel consumption is terrible,
Is it?
just awful.
Okay.
Which I suppose makes sense. If a motor's got to drive four wheels, it's going to use more gas
Yeah.
than a motor that just has to drive two wheels.
Yeah. Okay. Are you aware, and I'm sure you are, because you're very, very well read. You're a smart guy. Planes that go down, planes that go missing, right? I mean, remember that Air India jet that went down?
Yeah.
And I don't think they've ever still recovered recovered the wreckage. Remember that one? Just this past summer, I think it was?
There was one went down over Lockerbie in the 1980s that they haven't got that big of a... that's the RCMP that's working on that.
Yeah. But whenever a plane crashes and goes down, what is the one thing that they want to recover first and
The
foremost?
black box.
Exactly. Why do they want the black box?
Because it records the activity of the plane when it went down.
Exactly. Were you aware that cars also have their version of a black box installed in the computer modules?
No, I didn't know that.
Okay. They do. So what happens is, in serious cases like this, when we seize a car forensically, okay, and we have to go through it forensically, so, you know, we're looking for blood and fibers and hair, but when we suspect or believe that a vehicle has been utilized, one of the things that we do is we do a forensic examination on the black box, the computer module that's installed in the car, that retrieves and holds data as to where that car's been. It's like a built-in GPS.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, it provides us with speed, braking, acceleration, stops, starts, but it also provides us with coordinates.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and it's built right into the car. Dealers can access it. Us, through our investigative tools now, we can access the data as well. Okay, so that's one of the other things that's happening with your car right now.
Yeah.
Okay,
But that was not on the search warrant.
what's that?
That was not mentioned in the search warrant.
I know that. I know that. I'm
So that might be considered to be fruit of the poison tree.
It's possible, but I still have to look at it because it's a murder. I have a lady that's missing that hasn't been seen since the 12th. I have a sign of a struggle in her driveway where there's blood on her driveway and obvious signs of a struggle. There's blood at your house,
Blood in my house.
right?
Well, there'll be blood all over my house.
Right,
Because I'm always bleeding.
right.
But it'll be my blood.
Okay,
It sure as hell is not Lisa's blood in my house.
but it's on your car.
Well, I don't know about that.
That's science. It's right there. It's on your car. Okay, and you know what? Even down to it's on your exhaust. Low. Okay. Here's the thing. We're at this point where you know exactly what happened to her. Now, the way I have to look at it is, and I do look at it like this, do I think for one moment that you planned all this? Absolutely not. Do I think for one moment that you woke up one day and said that I'm going to harm her and take her life? No, I don't think that at all. Okay? But the fact is, it did happen.
I love her.
I know you do. So help us bring her back. Because there's family.
If you're convinced she's dead, you're not going to bring her back.
No, but you know what? You know as well as I do, there's grandkids and a daughter
And
and a son that would like her
and,
remains.
and the brother. Don't
That would like
forget
her
brother.
remains.
Yeah.
Okay?
Anyway,
And I know you
it
love
looks
her,
to me like you've got this all wrapped up.
but I want her.
Oh,
I want her back. People deserve that, and you know that.
I cannot answer any more questions at all.
But you can. You absolutely can, because you can make up your own
I have
mind.
not, the lawyer told me not even to speak to you, but being the kind of guy I am, I don't mind speaking to you.
You've been a gentleman.
But
You've been respectful. You've been
you're
cooperative.
just telling me that you can prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that I killed Lise Fredette. This is what you're telling me, right?
I'm telling you that
So
this
there's
evidence supports the
There's
allegations.
no point in us talking any more about this.
Well, there's
As
actually,
far as I could see, you've got this whole thing wrapped up.
but you already knew that coming in here. You already knew that you're the person who's responsible. I didn't need to tell you that.
No.
Yeah. I mean, you can't argue with the science that the blood is there. You want to know what the numbers are? The numbers are 1 in 26 trillion that it's anybody else's but hers. Okay? A quadrillion, I should say. The thing is
I would dispute that.
that you will have an opportunity to dispute that.
Anyway,
But how are you going to dispute it?
I am not qualified.
Sorry?
I am not qualified to do blood analysis or anything like that.
And nor am I, and that's why the scientists will come in, because it's not my opinion, it's the scientists that will come in and say, this is what they do for a living. And then there's all the images that are coming, all the cameras that are being downloaded.
You got it made.
Well, what are you going to say then? You're going to look at the community, you're going to look at the family, you're going to look at everybody, and then what are you going to say?
I'm going to say I didn't do this.
So, and everybody's going to look at an image, everybody's going to hear about the DNA, everybody's going to read the results,
Yeah.
and you're still going to stand there and say, I didn't do it?
I don't know what I'm going to say till I speak to a lawyer.
The thing is, you're a grown man, you can speak for yourself, number one, okay? I know you love her. Period. That is not a doubt in my mind. I know you love her.
Well, if you're quite sure she's dead, then it's the past tense.
You know she's dead. You know she's gone. You and I don't need to play a word game back and forth.
I'm not playing, I'm just telling you I don't want to speak to you, that's all, because the lawyer told me not to speak to you.
And I'm telling you I don't have an issue with that. However, I'm simply reminding you that you can speak for yourself. You've made that quite clear here today that you're very capable of talking. You're a very eloquent, very intelligent man. And you can also speak for yourself. You can also realize that the situation that you find yourself in, where you're at now, is you're at the point of no return. You've been arrested for murder. I've shared with you some of the evidence. There's a lot more that's still going on.
Yeah.
Okay? None of this is
So
really...
I don't know why you would even bother talking to me.
Because I would like her body back. That's why. You know that. That's logical. Okay? That's logical. Because you know what? And it's not for me because I don't have a personal attachment to her. But you know what? There's her daughter. There's all her family.
I know.
And you know what? Does somebody else need to eventually find those remains? Does a child need to stumble across them? Whatever the situation may be. I would like her body back. And that's where we're at. As far as the murder goes and the who did it, I'm good. Okay? The why is the question that everybody has. And from a family perspective and a community perspective, they would like to see some dignity come to, you know, regardless of whether she had personality flaws and she wasn't always the nicest person in the world to you and she maybe didn't always treat you 100% fairly.
Oh, no.
Make no mistake.
No. We had no problems.
No, but I mean, you talked about the fact that she had a temper and with that would come violence.
Lots of people have a temper.
Absolutely. I agree. And I look at this case, I don't believe for one moment that you planned all this. I actually think...
And just in case, I don't want you to have the wrong idea. I'm not trying to tell you that she was some kind of ogre. She was not.
Oh, I never
She
took
was
that.
a wonderful person. And 99% of the time we got on just perfectly.
I agree. And we
so
all have...
she's not an ogre in any way, shape or form.
Okay.
So she blew her top occasionally. It's not the end of the world.
So then she deserves better than where she is right now.
Ah,
You know that and I know that. The very fact that you're sitting here was as a result of your own actions. So it's always within your control. There's nobody else responsible for this.
well, there you go.
So it's completely within your control.
What's happening now is not within my control. What's happening now is completely out with my control. You can't even get my bloody cigarettes, for goodness sake.
And yet you've been provided with cigarettes, so you've not been deprived.
Yeah, I know. You've got everything there. You shouldn't care how it looks either. You've got this well wrapped up.
So I do care.
Yeah, that's okay. That's good. That's nice.
And you don't?
I don't want to talk to you.
You don't care?
I do not want to talk to you.
Do you care about them?
I do not want to talk to you.
So Andrew wasn't given Lisa's whereabouts away for nothing. He seemed to have it in his head that without a body, they couldn't really do anything to him. Well, it turns out that they could. So as Andrew sat in jail awaiting this preliminary trial, he was denied bail because even at 77, he was a rather dangerous man and a man with means to take off and leave the country. So the police continued their searches for Lisa's remains, hoping that with the winter ending that the visibility in the water would have improved, but they never did find any signs of Lise. The Crown prosecutor Shona Pickens' theory is that Andrew knew Lisa's Wednesday's routine and waited for her outside her house, likely hiding in some bushes after disabling her motion sensor. Then she got out of her car. He hit her over the head with a shovel, using it almost like an axe, creating a lot of blood loss for Lise. He then threw her into the bed of his truck, covered it with a tarp, and then dumped her body somewhere. Andrew delayed his preliminary hearing by basically not paying his lawyer, her retainer, and then complained that no one was given him his disclosure documents, which is so familiar of an argument. So so he had to represent himself. Delayed things further by complaining that it was unfair because he didn't know how to use a laptop. Finally, the preliminary started. He refused to show up and come out of his jail cell, so they had to forcibly remove him. And then he came into the courtroom in handcuffs and then proceeded to lay down in the prisoner's box, like instead of sitting like a normal person. So he was displaying this childish behaviors that Stefan had always been alluding to. And in order to In order to avoid any kind of appeals, the court made sure that he always had an attorney available for him to consult with. And then, after the preliminary concluded, Justice Benninger said, on the whole of the evidence that I heard, there was nothing in Miss Fredette's background or day to day life that logically leads to the conclusion that she voluntarily left everybody and everything that was important to her, and that there was overwhelming evidence that she had, in fact, been murdered, stating regarding the criminal harassment charge. I find that there is sufficient evidence to commit the defendant to trial on the basis of repeatedly communicating with Miss Fredette. I find there is reasonable inferences that the defendant played an active part in the death of Miss Fredette. So while he was waiting for the actual trial to begin, the police, they continued to search for her remains. Detective Mike Self said, "One of our goals is to bring closure to the family and find Lise. She is somewhere out there, and there is still hope that will happen, that a community member will come across her, but we also hope that we get the final piece of information that leads us to locating her." But after an exhausting trial of emotional outbursts from Andrew, and he once had to be carried into the courtroom in a chair, and he would sometimes act like he was all weak and feeble, couldn't hear anything. He taunted the prosecutor to basically provide a witness or Lisa's body to prove that he killed her. But he was convicted of first degree murder in April of 2017. He's not going to be eligible for parole for 25 years. So he was sent to the Millhaven Regional Treatment Center, where he died of apparent natural causes on July 11th, 2022. And of course, taking with him into the afterlife the location of Lisa's remains. And he hoped for the closure for the family. Stefan said upon hearing of his death, "He never said where he hid my mom. So now that he's dead, I doubt I'll ever find her. That's the part that really troubles me." So if you have any information about where Lise Fredette's remains could be, please contact the police in Peterborough. There is a good chance that he said something to someone before he died about where she is, and the family would just really, really like to have her remains back so that they can put her to rest properly, and provide a little bit of closure to the family. So if you have any information at all, the Peterborough police would be very interested in talking to you. And that was the case of Lise Fredette. And I'm going to be back again next week with another case. And in the meantime, you know what you're doing. And as always, thank you so much for listening and for watching.